17. I'd like to read this aloud. You can follow along on the screen or on your devices or Bibles. Genesis 37, verse 1. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. And I just think the NLT doesn't do it quite justice. King James, coat of many colors, right? We all have heard the song. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. His brothers responded, so you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I've had another dream, he said. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? He asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. When they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready and I will send you to them. I'm ready to go, Joseph replied. Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are getting along, Jacob said. Then come back and bring me a report. So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. What are you looking for? He asked. I'm looking for my brothers, Joseph replied. Do you know where they are pasturing their sheep? Yes, the man said. They have moved on from here, but I heard them say, let's go on to Dothan. So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan, and found them there. By the narrative, you can tell that there's more to the story. We'll come to that later. For this morning, I'd like to talk for a few moments about the brothers and about Joseph, and I'd like to share with you two applications that I draw pastorally from this story that I pass on to you. First of all, let's talk about the brothers for a minute. I made this all up in my own. It doesn't say this. I don't think it comes anywhere close to this in the Hebrew. I doubt that it does in the Septuagint. It's just you're not going to find this translation anywhere except right here at Tabernacle of Praise on August the 3rd, 2025. Here's what I say about the brothers. The brothers are slurping up, then spewing sewage sludge in Joseph's direction. Several weeks ago at the Lake Maurer Retreat Center, which is located in Excelsior Springs, Missouri, this is a campground, a retreat center that is owned by our Northern Missouri Ministry Network. The network is about 85 churches, and we own approximately 100 acres there in Excelsior Springs, where we do our camping programs, we do retreats and all those kinds of things there. And this is the location where when we raised the money to send our campers this year and to send workers, this is the place that they went. Well, during the very first week of camp, there was a sewer backup, and it was of a major kind. I wasn't there. I didn't see it directly. I saw pictures. I heard about it. Our network pastor, our superintendent I spoke with him a number of times on the phone as I'm a part of the board and district officer, and he tried to describe it to me. And the way he described it, he said, I have never seen anything like this. There were 3 to 4 inches of black, syrupy sewage all throughout the lower level of Pettit Lodge. Does that sound enticing? I tell you what, as he was describing it, I can almost hear him feeling a little queasy as he was describing it. Well, this backup occurred, and this syrup basically went through the entire level of this area, and there's a large game room down there and snack area, and then there are a number of rooms where students were staying for that first week at camp. And of course, it happened during the time of day when hardly anyone was in the lodge. It was during lunch. Well, anyway, by the time the students came back, they discovered that this wonderful syrupy sludge had already been soaked up by their things that were on the floor and all of that. And if you can imagine the very worst. Well, why do I call this to your attention? Well, the fact is, as far as attitude, as far as behavior, as far as their spirits, what the brothers were engaged in was sewage backup. They hated Joseph, and they were jealous of Joseph. Oftentimes in the church world today, we tolerate or allow or even condone hatred. I'm not sure that enough churches or pastors are rebuking members for the hatred that they spew, for example, in regard to political matters. How is it that representatives of Jesus Christ can say that they hate other people, even if they're another political party? This is tolerated by churches. Hatred is something that God totally disavows. And here the brothers are, they are hating on Joseph, and they are jealous of him. And they are putting this out. At this point in the brothers' lives, this thing that they have, this hatred, this jealousy, it is raw emotion. It's raw, ugly attitude. And it's raw talk. It's the talk of death. Proverbs addresses this later on. It's the talk of death. It's the kind of talk that is not condoned by the Lord. Years ago, as I was engaged in my undergraduate studies, since then, and then in further studies, and then just on my own, I've taken courses, I've done studies, I've read the books on conflict management. And in the process of conflict management, I can remember it being stated somewhat like this when it comes to conflict management. First of all, you have to realize that there is going to be conflict. You have to realize some of the signs of conflict as it's coming. For example, in conflict management, there is this thing that is called offense gathering or gathering of offenses. This is where someone gets offended or perturbed or whatever the case is, and where they end up somehow or the other, usually in subtle ways at first, they'll talk to someone else and they'll find, oh. And so they start talking more, and they begin to then rehearse their offenses with one another. This is what the brothers were doing. They were gathering their offenses. Yes, you're right. I saw that too. Yes, I was in the room when he told the story. Do you know how many times he told that same story? And on it goes. And so they start to gather their offenses, and then they begin to reinforce one another in these offenses. And so the more they talk about it, and the more they're doing this, the more ingrained it becomes, and the more a part of their spirit it becomes. And there's a note, it's a beware. As it was with the brothers, and we'll see this later, this thing eventually manifests into extremely serious behavior. And many of you already know where that is leading. In fact, we'll be addressing that next week. So you know where this is leading, you know where it's going. But folks, this did not turn out all that well, at least for a good long time, for the brothers. And the beware is this: if you are engaged in offense gathering and hating and jealousy, in I can always do that better than so-and-so, why does that happen? Why does he get that? Or her, why does she get that? And on it goes. It is not a good path to take, all right? And at some point, there's going to be conflict, and it will have to be managed. Now, Joseph, it is true, he's loved by his brothers, or loved by his father, excuse me. He is loved by his father. He has been given gifts by his father. You heard it. You saw the story. He has been sent on special missions by his father. For a while, he was out in the fields with his brothers, but he would bring back bad reports. And at some point, it seems as though Dad said, okay, you're going to stay here in home base, and I'll give you the keys to the pickup, and you go to farm and home, and you get the supplies, you make sure things are ordered, and make sure your brothers have what they need. You stay here with me, and then from time to time, I'll send you out. And so it seems as though this is the kind of thing that Joseph was involved in. Joseph had a dream. Then Joseph had another dream. And I would like to note here, it's a by the way, all of these things